Morning. Not wearing socks today. Nobody should wear socks for podcasting. Socks are for the weak. Hello. Morning, Cactus, Keon, Pick Pig. We're not talking about the Nito trying to get people to throw up at Riptide, are we? Let's go for a run at Riptide. Who would want to do that? Seems like the least fun thing you could possibly do. Who likes running? Who likes to do that? Name one person on planet Earth who enjoys running. I'll wait. Also, I can't see chat. I have chat muted today. Sorry. But I'll take your silence is not I've taken your silence as evidence. Regardless of that. Now, there are people who like sand volleyball, Neo. And I realized I made the mistake of thinking you had to register for the 3v3 tournament with 3 people already. Instead, what I'm going to do next year, it seems what everyone else is doing, is just register immediately to save a spot and then find teammates later. Because I want to do the sand volleyball thing. And I'm not, in next year when we do sand volleyball, I'm not going to just play with any of you. So we're trying to win. This isn't a pickup for fun. For fun pickup. Not about that nonsense. If they have a basketball court, I don't think they do, actually. Pretty sure they don't. I mean, they got like the one in the pool, but hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are working on your post-Ludi disbandment project, joining rosters last minute just so you can get an undeserved tournament badge, winning your 1500 meter semifinal, and also somehow being a fan of Splatoon at the same time. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. I have been enjoying the Olympics a lot this past week. I hope you have been as well. It is a good time to bring the world together, except not really. I will say, though, Olympics during the social media era has been hilarious. I love every single meme that comes out from these Olympics. And by the way, the answer to the question, which is, if you had 4 years to train, which one of these events could you compete in? There is no way that aim at the target with one hand in your pocket and shoot an air gun. There's no way, if you gave me 4 years, I don't at least, I'm not saying I'm going to like make podium or something, but I would at least make myself uh, respectable of how I actually finished in that thing. There's no way that it would take you more than 4 years to get good at that air shooting thing. Um, but I've been enjoying the Olympics. It's a cool little time. Took last week off from whatever the hell this is because we got a lot of stuff coming up. There's going to be a big grind weekly episodes of this because we got the 20XX league that is kicking off. I'm talking about it today. Low Ink coming up, Riptide around the corner, ribbity rip, a Riptide. Already the biggest Splatoon LAN ever, and we just said that a few weeks ago, or a few months ago. So, and we still got a month to go with registration for that. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up that deserves to be talked about. So I'm excited to be coming back and doing this podcast pretty consistently, which is why I took last week off, because I knew it was going to be a grind going forward. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener. The Popcast. Little Squid League is taking place this weekend. It is Little Squid League week. I have not talked about Little Squid League in a hot minute. Hopefully, I'll actually have... There won't be enough crazy stuff going on in the community to where I'll have time to talk about Little Squid League, because I got a lot to say about Little Squid League because a lot has happened since the last time I talked about it. Sign up and play it in this weekend. I don't know if it's still capped at 64 teams or not, or it could be. I don't know. I haven't been paying attention. I've been banned from Little Squid League before it even existed. Low Ink is going to be 2 weekends away, so not next weekend, but the weekend after that. Proving Grounds is next Sunday. We have switched to Splat Zones only. Splat Zones only. And the next Proving Grounds is going to be the next Sunday. And obviously this upcoming weekend, if you're not going to be playing in Little Squid League, that probably means you should be playing in the 20XX Qualifier number 2. We're going to be recapping it next week here on the Popcast. Because why not? What else are we going to talk about? Today, we are going to be recapping the qualifier numero uno that took place on Saturday, and I'm also going to be predicting. No, I'm not going to be predicting. I'm going to be telling you who is going to qualify from the second qualifier that's taking place this weekend. That's right, you don't even have to watch, although you should still watch to increase viewership, but I'll tell you right here and now the 3 teams that are going to qualify the second time around. All that and more. But first, yes, and I will say, off script here, yes, the 6-pack yoke shirt is one of the few Splatoon jerseys that I have, and I have 4 of them. Smoothie, Wiggly Phantoms, the Grillers, and the Yokes. Not only is it the only shirt that isn't black, it is the only shirt that still survived the wash and fits pretty good. Like this shirt... I really like the fit of this. The Wiggly Phantoms looks like I'm wearing a muscle shirt at the beach. The Smoothie shirt is like an actual legit jersey, so it's never going to change at all. And the Griller jersey, well, I've had that since before the pandemic, so it's starting to fade a little bit. So yes, if you guys are going to make jerseys for Riptide, go the 6-pack yoke route, because this shirt is great and I feel like it's going to stand the test of time. And quit making every single shirt black. There's more colors than just black. It seems like that's the only jersey people make for Splatoon. Shout out 6-pack yokes. If you've been paying attention to the Popcast at any point in the past 4 years, which I know you have, you know that my purpose behind making this, or like my reason for creating this, is so that I can pretend that I am a sports radio broadcaster. And I try to mimic this show as to what I hear on sports radio since I was growing up. And one of the many segments they do that I enjoy listening to sports radio is just like, let's talk about a brief topic and only spend like 1 to 2 minutes talking about it and then move on to something else. And I would like to do something like that. However, we never really have that kind of thing. There's always just like 2 big topics to kind of talk about, or a tournament or something like that. However, this time around, since I didn't do anything last week, I got about 3 different topics that I want to try to breeze through in a moderate kind of fashion. I don't know what to call this topic, though, so I'm just going to say random topics of the week. And hopefully this is something that I can do more consistently, kind of like the weekly recap, although this one's probably going to take up a good chunk of time. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, Nintendo finally announced sanctions. I guess that's the proper term to use it. Sanctions against Jackpot. And a tweet that they released on Nintendo Versus. Quote, "It has come to our attention that certain members of Team Jackpot, the team that recently won the Splatoon 3 World Championships, acted in a manner that is not in line with our community guidelines while playing the Splatoon 3 game. As a result, Team Jackpot's wins will be considered vacated, and the team will not receive trophies associated with the event. Additionally, the in-game splash tag commemorating their win will be adjusted via an upcoming software update. Nintendo cares deeply about our players in the community, and we take our responsibility to uphold our community guidelines seriously." End quote. So there you go. They did something. Vacating their win. So much like Michigan's football team a couple of years from now, the championship is just revoked. It's gone. They didn't win it. It never happened, which is going to make trivia questions in the future really awkward. Who is the team that won the 2024 Splatoon World Championships? Japan? I don't know. Kaiser would be my vote for that instead of the Japan team that just won the Turf War tournament that they hosted to figure out which team was going to represent their country in that. So there you go. Now, clearly Nintendo made the right decision. It took them a little bit of time to come to this conclusion, but it was the correct conclusion that they came to. The banner is gone, thank goodness. That is I'm not surprised that they finally got rid of the banner, but you shouldn't be. I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, you shouldn't be surprised that they did something about this." No, they're past with how they've handled players cheating in their own tournament has been pretty bad. To make you think that they're actually going to step in and remove something from the video game is still kind of shocking, but at the same time, when it's gathered this much attention, Nintendo had only one correct way to go about it, and they actually did go about it. Now, there's a bunch of people saying that this is Nintendo Versus doing this or like bringing attention to this, and I don't know what the difference between Nintendo and Nintendo Versus is, but there was a lot of people coming forward saying that they've had positive interactions with Nintendo Versus. Maybe I'll get somebody who knows more about what all that's about on the podcast or something, because I just don't get what the difference is, but or how, like, what they bring to the table that Nintendo doesn't. But regardless, it's good. This is a step in the right direction, because 3 years ago, you remember that team that signed up for a tournament that wasn't supposed to. It was like there were 4 different modes, and then if you won a mode, you got invited to the finals that was going to be online later that year, although they didn't tell anybody that there was going to be a finals. They just magically announced, "Hey, you won this tournament. Cool. On this date, you're playing in the finals." And I had Shaq on this podcast for FT Win, and Shaq was like, "They didn't even ask us if we were available that day. They just said we had to come and play." And we were like, "All right, we are." But like they found out about that tournament on Twitter the same time everybody else did. Well, there was a team that illegally signed up and won one of those tournaments because you weren't allowed to switch teammates from tournament to tournament. Well, these players did, and they used alts, and it took the Splatoon community like 5 minutes to recognize that they cheated. And despite that, Nintendo still invited them to that grand final tournament anyways. And it wasn't until after the team that cheated came forward and said, "We're not playing in this because we cheated," did Nintendo reverse course and say, Arctic Moon, congratulations, you're actually invited to play in this final tournament. So, yeah, there's been past examples of Nintendo not even paying attention to like their own scene until somebody else points something out. So, yes, this obviously got way more. The jackpot situation expanded well beyond the competitive scene and to the casual crowd, which is the infinitely more bigger market that is that draws attention to competitive Splatoon in general. So they got it right. Congratulations to them. Now, if you're probably sitting here saying, well, this sucks because now they're not going to do tournaments anymore. They get one world championship and the team that won it is now being having their wins vacated and their trophies are gone. They didn't have trophies right there? Like they didn't get trophies right when they won it? Why wouldn't they still get that? The banner's been taken away. Now Nintendo's never doing a tournament again. Come on, guys. If you've been listening to me talk about any Nintendo tournament, you know damn well they're going to do these things forever and ever. You forgot the purpose of these tournaments. What is the purpose of these Nintendo tournaments? I'll give you a hint. It is not to determine who the best team in North America is, the best team in Europe, the best team in Taiwan. It's not to determine who the world champion is or to celebrate the world champions. The purpose of these tournaments is to sell copies of the video game. That's all it ever is. That's why the commentators aren't talking about what this is going to do for Jackpot's legacy. The commentators are telling you how Clam Blitz works because they assume you have never seen Splatoon in your life. And let's be honest, even if you have seen Splatoon, a lot of you still don't even understand how Clam Blitz works, so it's understandable. As long as there are copies of this game to sell, Nintendo is going to continue to create tournaments from it. The only difference is you are never going to hear the word jackpot be uttered on a Nintendo stream ever again. That's the only difference. So don't worry, those tournaments are going nowhere. Until you guys stop buying the video game, it's still going to be around. So don't worry about that. That is not going anywhere. Now, transitioning away from that into what the community can actually control. Outside of Nintendo, the Community Awards have been announced, or the nominees for the Community Awards hosted by Inksane, a group of Splatoon content creators. I don't know if led by Jardonian, but Jardonian, who is a part of IPL leadership, is a part of that group. And this is the second year in the row that the Inksane Community Awards are being presented. I know this is the second year in a row. If you didn't realize this something happened last year, I actually got nominated last year. And that's how I found out about this. Because I got pinged in a tweet for Community Member of the Year, and I was like, what is this? Now, I did not win Community Figure of the Year last year because Sindao was a part of it, who has been nominated again, and I voted for Sindao because I think if you create a competitive Splatoon website that everything revolves around that now from where we are from a year ago. I think that makes you Community Figure of the Year. So that was my vote, and it was correct. I have been nominated yet again for Community Figure of the Year, and yet again, I'm not going to win it because my vote is going to go for the person who created several charity tournaments to benefit children of Palestine and raise awareness and money for them in Hollow. So there you go. But once again, I got that ping that I've been nominated, and I was like, oh, right, I remember this thing last year. I thought it'd be a cool idea if I were to do an episode last week to stream myself voting on my own little ballot for all of the different categories that they had posted out there. And as I was reading through those lists of categories of things you could vote for this of the year or that of the year or whatever, I came to the conclusion that that would be a bad topic to do on the podcast because about 90% of the categories I was looking at, I had no idea what it was. I have no clue who the Salmon Run Player of the Year award is. I don't know who the splat tuber on the rise should be, and I don't want to just sit here and do an episode of me being like, I have no idea who this person is or that person or any of this stuff. And that is the first signal that this Ink Saints Community Awards is based more so around the casual community and not so much the competitive community, which makes people in the competitive community raise their eyebrows a little bit when it comes to the competitive player awards. There are two different major competitive awards, other than the tournament of the year, which is going to be this upcoming low ink bet. But there were two main competitive awards for Team of the Year and Player of the Year. The Team of the Years that were nominated was FT Win, Starburst, Moonlight, and Zest Fest. Oh, bless your heart, Zest Fest. Bless your heart. You're there, though. You're part of the team. Players of the Year that you can vote on: Zenith, Omega, Basil, and Keo, which all sounds good. Now, first, we got to think, wait, Team Player of the Year, it's July when this ballot came out, and I think people were starting nominating things back in June. So really, this is just like half the year. It's kind of like Major League Baseball or any or the NBA. I'm an all-star for the Major League Baseball. All right, cool. But what if you play really horrible in July, August, September, and October? Well, you still get to say you were an all-star even though you weren't good throughout the entire year. So that's why I don't really know this is like the fiscal year player of the fiscal year, because it's coming out in July. Regardless, though, it drew some attention specifically with the Player of the Year candidates. Because if you were to think of whatever your interpretation of the Player of the Year should be, shouldn't Goss not just be nominated to be Competitive Player of the Year, but shouldn't Goss like win this award hands down? I mean, you talk about a player that won a Sindaku final with FT Win and just won Super Jump as a part of Metro a few weeks back. Now, I know that's a little bit after the nominations, but still, when you think about Player of the Year individually, Goss seems, in my book, Goss would win that hands down without even having to think about it. But Goss isn't even nominated here. Instead, it's two players from Moonlight, Keo, who everybody knows, and Zenith, which sparked some conversation on Twitter, I guess. But here's what you guys got to understand. When I pointed out how the vast majority of these categories were casual focused as far as like the topics that were being presented for people to vote on, that feeds into the competitiveness or the competitive categories as well. Because if you were just to take the competitive community, the Team of the Year wouldn't include Zestfest, and the Players of the Year would look completely different. Instead, this is casuals who are voting on these kinds of things, that are nominating these things. So of course, when you just leave the scope of the competitive scene in the casuals, they know who Moonlight is, which is why Basil and Omega are a part of it. And they know who Keo is because Keo is the most iconic Splatoon player in the community, period. Like, I don't think there's a more, maybe you could argue Dude, but still, like, everybody knows Keo accomplishments lifetime long is going to be something that resonates with people outside of the competitive scene as a whole. You're not going to know who Goss is. You're not going to know who Xeris is. You are going to know who those players individually are. Now, Zenith, I guess, I don't know how Zenith would like break through to the casual crowd. Maybe I do see Zenith tweet out a lot about social issues within the community, and Zenith isn't afraid to voice their opinion on topics. And from what I've seen, seems to have pretty based takes on a lot of those things. So I wonder if that kind of transcends the casual crowd more, where you don't really see other players or players that constantly change their name. I mean, Zenith does that too. But still, this is the point that you got to kind of understand with these things. This is not the competitive poll. If it did, it would look completely different. It should be a wake-up call, though, for those of you who are saying, wait a minute, how come Zaris and Goss are not a part of this? They got it completely wrong. Yeah, nobody knows who those players are. That's the thing. And when everybody's changing their names and doing pickups across all these other things that have random names or whatever, it's not going to stick with the casual crowd, and they're not going to even know to nominate those kinds of players. So, and I'm not sitting here criticizing anybody. I'm not sitting here saying, stop using the alias thing. Maybe I was a couple of years ago, but I've reached the point now to where I'm like, who cares? Like, if somebody's naming themselves something silly, it does not hurting anybody. It's not, and it's not like if they weren't naming themselves that, oh, I'm going to get this many more Twitter followers. No, you have to do more than just play the game to grow your brand. You can't just be good and let it sit at that. You got to promote yourself. You got to market yourself. And if you don't want to do that, then there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But at the flip side, you can't turn back around and be like, how come these casuals don't know who I am? Well, Moonlight puts themselves out there. Keo puts themselves out there. Zenith isn't afraid to voice their opinions on things. That resonates with crowds. I would vote for Zenith, by the way. In Team of the Year, I would have to vote for Moonlight because I don't even know what's up with Starburst or FT Win. And well, Zestfest is... I'll give Zestfest I won't vote for them for Team of the Year, but I'll give them a good old Attaboy of the Year award. I think they deserve something like that. Good news, though, for everybody that is kind of worried that, oh no, casuals don't vote for me. Guess what? Casuals don't vote in the Plus server, as Plus server voting has become a hot topic as of late. And the bad news is, I think most of you would kind of hope that casuals would vote into the Plus servers. With the amount of purging that took place last time, Plus 2 basically becoming a graveyard, it's not looking good for the upcoming voting scene as, well, people have kind of pointed out, hey, wait a minute. This person who was saying they won this tournament, they didn't actually win this tournament, but they put down the result that they did, and they got the badge for it. Badge farming is something I kind of hinted at last time we did an episode of the Popcast. It is an actual thing. Is it like every single person that's doing stuff like that? No. But again, I pointed out there are so many different badges out there now, and there's so many different tournaments. I think there were 29 tournaments last week, and I think one of them had like up to 4 badges you could win. There were about 30 different badges that were up for grabs last week alone. The badge market has become watered down. And again, there are people who have send out profiles that make themselves look like 5-star generals with all the badges they got, and they're not even in plus 3. Like at some point, those things don't become impressive anymore, especially when you don't even recognize what half the badges are at this point. But badge hunting is 100% a thing. Skep tweeted out today about SOS used to have a badge for all the different brackets, which maybe in hindsight wasn't the best idea, but it did bring out the worst in some people. There were people who did 100% confirmed and punished by IPL to alt and throw so that they could get into a lower bracket, so that they could curb stomp that lower bracket, so that they could get a badge, a part of their thing. I got a lantern badge. Why do you have a lantern badge, when you're in plus 2? That's kind of weird that you would do that bad in the group stage. That happened multiple occasions. So yeah, SOS did rid of that. Low Ink. Some people were kind of joking, hey, if I coach a team, I should win a low ink badge. Yeah, some people weren't joking about that and thought that was an actual thing. It never was, and we kind of flirted with the idea in our head. It was like, well, wait, that's kind of a cool concept. Hey, you guys give back to some of these teams, help them win low ink, and as a coach, we'll let you get a part of that. But then we realized, oh, wait a minute. There's just a lot of this opportunity for, oh, I coached this team all along. Okay, did you really? Or are they just throwing you a bone and hope that you just like give them some clout in the future or something like that. So yeah, that idea kind of went down the toilet. And also there was the push to try to get every badge possible, which you can't do. It is impossible to get every single badge. Well, I guess I should say it isn't impossible, but it would take you about 20 years to do so, because there is a different badge for every single looty division. So if you start off in Div 10 and you win it, and winning Div 10 only bumps you up to Div 9 the next season, and you only go up one div after winning every single div, eventually you will get every single looty badge. If that happens, and there's going to be somebody in chat, but Pop Gun, I did win Div 10, and you put my team in Div 9 this past season. Okay, I already forgot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Prove me wrong, but win another one of those things. But badge farming has been an issue in the community for a long time, and it has now gotten to the point, as some people have pointed out, people aren't even playing in tournaments anymore. They're just, or I shouldn't say people, select individuals aren't playing in tournaments, and instead DMing other people who are likely to win that tournament. Hey, will you throw me on that roster so I can get a badge even though I'm not actually going to play? As I was writing this topic, it was announced an hour ago on Sindow's Twitter. An update has been made to the badge system on the Sindow.inc website. In the future, the result page will show also the percentage of the tournaments played. So if a player actually played in a tournament, it'll show how often that player actually showed up and played in those tournaments. Reporting a wrong roster, aka alting, will enter into a minimum 3-month ban, and badges will be auto assigned, but it will be to the 4 members who played, who ended up playing at the end. So it's not going to be some of these teams that you see win these weeklies that have like 8 players on it, and it's like, you didn't actually use all these 8 players. It seems like not all of those 8 players are going to do that anymore. So there you go. Quick little update on that I saw. And that recaps the random topics of the week that at least I saw that drew some little attention to myself. There we go. Youngster making booty shorts for Riptide. I don't know if I'm a Splatoon shorts kind of person, but I'm definitely a Splatoon jersey kind of person. Oh, and hats too. I guess I'll wear my LSL hat next week for the LSL recap. Chara being questioned as part of the competitive player that, well, I think there's at least enough people that would recognize that Chara hasn't done enough. Now, okay, so at least the players that were nominated have some, like Zenith has credit, like even no matter how you look at it, Zenith deserves to be nominated for Player of the Year with what they've accomplished so far this year. Keo, you could make the argument because did win a Sindow Q final with FT win, and didn't really do that great for their standard at Super Jump. Could do really good in the upcoming league. Omega and Basil has accomplished more this year than Chara has. So yeah, I guess if you're trying to say like Chara has the same kind of has a higher audience, you're saying that like in the dude category. Yes, probably, absolutely yes. But dude wasn't nominated for Player of the Year either, and still plays competitively, I think, actually. But at least some of these players have like something to go off of. But there's just some really obvious. If the competitive scene did it, it'd be completely different. But that's not the point. The point is, this is what transcends the casual crowd. They have no idea who these players that don't promote themselves that much actually are, even though they are really strong at the game. I have not grinded comps seriously in months. I think it's about being known as a player. I don't know. How close were you, Chara, to wanting to go into that stage at Low Tide City and think like, man, if I could just get in there and use Blaster. But then again, maybe not so much. But I bet I would assume that there's still kind of an itch to get on there. I can say this. I'm nowhere near the skill level you are or any of the players that were on this, but I still kind of get that itch when I'm at a LAN, be like, oh, it'd be fun to play. It'd be fun to kind of get up there and play. And then I see like the kids play these days, and their screens are just like flipping all over the place with all their reflexes, and I'm like, nope, I am done. I cannot hang with any of these guys anymore. Speaking of kids winning the video game, let's talk about that. It's time for the weekly recap. Paddling pool number 278 was won by I Ate My Dog. Yes, King finished in second place, and Ancient Dark finished in third. Now, if you're wondering why Ancient Dark finished in third in this tournament, is because they only had 4 players on their roster. I Ate My Dog and Yes King both had 6 players on their roster, which is the ideal number that you use if you want to win these tournaments, obviously. Minnow Cup was played on Saturday, the 35th edition of Minnow Cup. It was a Clam Blitz tournament that was won by Jelly Squids. $19 Fortnite card got second place, and Royalty rounds out your top 3. Well, there you go. I know Jelly Squids were Div 4 before, got moved down to Div 5, which I guess would make them eligible for a Div 5 tournament. But this is a great example of something I've been seeing a lot lately, which is, well, if you're banned from Low Ink, that means you're Div 4 and you're banned from all these other tournaments and blah, blah, blah. No, I've seen this topic come up again. The answer is no. If you're banned from Low Ink, it just means you're banned from Low Ink. If you want to stretch that to mean something else, that's on you, not us. So Minnow Cup took a team that was banned from Low Ink and allowed them to play, and I think that's great that they don't just look at what we ban and go along with it. Jelly Squids winning the tournament, though, doesn't surprise me. 988 Charity Cup was won by Toad from Super Mario 64. Splash of Support finished in second place, and Filled Fish rounds out your top 3 for this Charity Cup tournament. 66 teams played in this tournament. It was a charity tournament to raise money and awareness for the Center of Suicide Awareness. I don't know the exact dollar amount that they raised, because I think the donation is still going on for a few more days. But there you go, a charity tournament, another charity tournament that seemed to have a lot of teams playing it, and hopefully raised a lot of money as well. Looney recap as we are entering the end of the season. We still got some playoffs to go. Some divs are almost done. Some divs are getting close. Division 4, Surf and Turf got a 5-3 win over Lush. Division 7, Inc. I didn't put down who that team was, but Inkfinity lost 5-4 to somebody. Division 4, Morning Glory got a 5-4 win over Team 7. In Div 5, Hyper Control got a 5-3 win over Blood Moon. In Division 6, Disclaimer got a 5-3 win over Celestial. The championship week for, I believe, Div 2 through 3, maybe 4. Others are still going through their playoffs. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by Riptide. It is the official biggest Splatoon LAN ever to take place anywhere in all of the known universe. And there's still a month to go for registration. If you would like to take part in this event, go to start.gg/Riptide, and you can still sign up for that one. Ribbity rip, a Riptide. It used to just be, okay, there's a lot of players going, but there's no like Starburst, Moonlight caliber team. But now there are some strong teams. There are strong pickups that are starting to sign up there. And some other strong players that have signed up but haven't been put onto teams yet. So there could be a pretty decent grand finals or top cut bracket that's going to be worthwhile watching on Sunday for this one. Riptide, the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap. Yolk for a day. I'm going to have a baby in my arms. I am not playing the video game at Riptide. Although he will be he's already started walking. He should be walking pretty decently. So it might not be in my arms, just might be more so keeping an eye on him for the whole time. 2 players, 1 controller. I will never do that. That did not look like a fun time. That did not look like a fun time. 20XX. No, it is not a weekend tournament anymore. It is now a 2-month-long extravaganza, maybe 2 month and some change extravaganza going on now. It is a league, baby, and a league being back is awesome. This is the first time we've had a league since the spring of last year. Qualifier number 1 is in the books with 3 teams joining the reigning Super Jump champion Metro. Those 3 teams being, in order, Gru, a pickup of Kyo, Gray, Obito, and Biscuit. Gru being a traditional pickup team name for things. Ludi is not the kind of league we're talking about. Don't even come close to saying that in comparison. Gru won this tournament. It wasn't easy, but they didn't drop any sets along the way, and they are now moving on to the big dance, and they won $100 for winning the qualifier. Celeste, the team that finished second place in the most recent Sindao Q finals, made up of Phoenix, Cam, Mikey, and you. This seems to be an actual team, and it is good that this team is still competing in this one, and it wasn't just like a one-off thing for the Sindao Q finals. No, they moved forward. We didn't see a Celeste team play in Super Jump, but they came out here. They finished second place. They pushed Gru to a Game 5 in the winner side of the bracket, but ultimately finished in second place, qualifying for the tournament. And last, certainly not least, your favorite team, possibly the team of the year, was the last team to qualify out of qualifier number 1, and that goes to Moonlight, who I watched. I watched the Moonlight set against the Salmon team, and I watched it on my phone, not on Wi-Fi. I was like at work, so I was like got the crappy G kind of thing, like 5G, and like not the best picture quality on my phone. So I'm watching it, and I'm trying to look at what the comps are, because I see that Moonlight is using a pencil. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They got cooler. That usually means they got a tint coming out as well. Well, I looked, and I couldn't see the tint, but I did see like a gray blurred out weapon where the tint should be. And I was like, wait a minute. That looks more like an in-zap than a tint. Are they running double soda? No, there's no way. They're not actually running double soda. Well, in the game I watched, they threw 2 soda containers right next to each other at the same time. I was like, oh no, they're running double soda, which is something a low ink team did at the start of the game, back when Respawn Punisher was the counter to soda. And I was like, why aren't more teams doing this? Like, just hold forward, just use soda after soda and just keep throwing yourself at the objective until you eventually have more players alive than them. This seems like a kind of brain dead but natural way of playing the game. Well, that seems to be what Moonlight did, and they even tweeted out, hey, we won using double soda. So is this the new and improved Moonlight? Did they take their lumps in Super Jump and say, this is the thing we're going to change, we're now going to be a Splatoon 1 team? So be it. It seemed to work out for them. They got revenge on the Ducks who beat them in Super Jump. They beat them 3-0 this time around to secure their spot into the league. So good. If you were a Moonlight fan, you're like, I don't want them playing in that second qualifier, being like, are they or aren't they? I want them to just get something done, and they got something done. So now they get to kind of chill and figure out things for the rest of the time. Good for them. So that's 4 teams that have qualified, and all 4 of these teams seem to be right with each other. Gru, who won this tournament, the qualifier, they went 6-3 in games against Celeste, including a 3-2 win in winners finals and a 3-1 win in grand finals of that as well. Celeste, as I mentioned, they finished second place in the Sindaku tournament finals a couple of months ago. So they seem to be just as strong. And both these teams have players on it that played against that Metro team and would love to get another shot at those kinds of players. So, yeah, those 4 teams, Moonlight being a little bit of the odd man out. However, if you get Moonlight in a scenario that's going to be different from what all these tournaments are, which is what this league is going to be, sets 1 week at a time where you got time to game plan, come up with a strategy against an opponent, and you're much longer sets, not just these best of 5 that you have no time to prepare for because you don't know who you're playing. Now you get multiple days to prepare for a longer set. That's going to equalize things, I think, for everybody, and I would love to see Moonlight in that kind of format. But that is 4 teams. We still got 4 more teams left to go to figure out who is going to finish out this league. So who are going to be the 4 teams that are going to join the 4 that we already got? That is a great question. There's not much to pick from. There's not a whole lot of selection going on right here. The cupboard is extremely bare. And all the players that you would kind of want are already in there. And it's just a matter of like, wait, we still got to find 4 more teams to put this in. It doesn't seem like it's, oh, we got 4 spots up for grabs for teams to fight for. It's just like, we need to find 4 more people to fill this out. So let's go over the list of the teams that played last weekend that can qualify this time around, that didn't play last weekend but have already signed up and can qualify this time around, or haven't played, haven't signed up yet, or at least this morning, which was the last time that I checked, that have the capability of doing it. I only got 6. I only got 6 teams, and we can only pick 3 of these 6 teams to move on. First off, Duck Motif, the Quack Attack. The Ducks themselves, they finished 4th place, losing to Moonlight, who got revenge on them, even though they beat Moonlight in the Super Jump tournament a few weeks earlier. They swept BTDX, and they took a game off of Gru. This has been a really, really good month for the Ducks so far. You got these category of teams that can win any weekly. You can win any Proving Grounds or Squid Junction that you sign up for, which is great, cool. That doesn't make you relevant at all in these big boy tournaments. We see teams that consistently have all these kind of badges we were talking about, but when it comes time for a major tournament to show up, they sign up, they play in it, and they are not relevant at all. The Ducks have been very relevant because they tied for 5th place in Super Jump, and they got 4th place in this qualifier. The Ducks are moving in the right direction, and they are leaving that team that's like, okay, cool, they're going to win Squid Junction. We don't care anymore. What are you going to do next? They're taking that next step. They are the team I got at the very top who could qualify for this one. BTTX is a team who played last weekend, and they also tied for 5th place with another team I'm going to mention in a second. The problem is they went a combined 0-5 per games against Duck Motif and Moonlight, which was the 2 teams that knocked them out. So when they lost hard to those teams. However, they took care of everyone else that was in their path, and they were the number 4 seed. So they were seeded to finish just outside of the top 3 that qualified for this weekend. The problem with BTDX, when you look back to Super Jump, they didn't make Alpha Bracket. They failed to get out of the Redemption Brown and make Alpha Bracket. They fell down to Beta Bracket, and nobody's saying anything negative about the fact that they didn't play in Beta. Who cares? I don't want to see them play in Beta. I want to see them try to fight their way into a league, which they have an opportunity to do so. Moonlight's gone. That's one of the teams that beat them. Duck Motif beat them in the I think I want to say they beat them in the loser side of the bracket, 0-2 when it was still a best of 3. But still, BTDX has a roster that is capable of making a run to this one, and they're going to have to overcome this other team that played last weekend that also finished in 5th place, TH Salmon. I'm just going to call them the Salmon team. This is a team made up of Synapse, Tamako, Hinlo, Big Yacht, and Lexi. They've tied for 5th place as well with BTDX, pushing Moonlight to a game 5, although Moonlight was able to take care of business. I believe this is the game I actually saw on my phone at like 240p. They did get a match. If they did get a match with BTDX, that would be worthwhile. That would be a match that you want to be keeping an eye on. But it seems like from the teams that just played last week, if you would just go, ipso facto, 3 teams need to move on, it would be Duck Motif, BTDX, and the Salmon team. However, there are 2 teams, at least 2 teams that I saw sign up this morning that didn't play last weekend that have that are more than capable of taking one of the top 3 spots this upcoming weekend. First is Comp Diff, Dapple's finest. The team led by Punchy and several other players that have won pretty much every paddling pool and Triton Cup that they bothered to sign up for. Lost to Facade in Super Jump, a strong team that we probably underseeded in Division 1 because they've been curb stomping Division 1. Divs don't matter, by the way. But Comp Diff has the experience and the skills to get things done this weekend in their first qualifier that's going to play in. However, that Facade team that I mentioned, the team that beat them in Super Jump, they signed up for this one as well. They didn't play last weekend in the qualifier 1, but you look at who is left, and you got to be thinking Facade is capable of beating every team that I just listed, including they did beat some of these teams. I think they did lose. I forget who knocked them out. I think it was one of those teams that made podium that knocked them out of the tournament. I think they finished tied for 5th with Duck Motif, actually, in the Super Jump tournament. So they're more than capable of being a team that qualifies this time around as well. The last team, I said there was only 6 teams I was going to mention here. The 6th team is the team that did not play last weekend and, to my knowledge, has not signed up yet. But if Oro Jackson were to play, I don't think it's I think it's a formality that they just advance. I think you just kind of look at this and say they're the favorite to win the tournament, and if that's not the case, they're at least making bronze. They're at least going to qualify, right? Like they finished 2nd place or they finished 3rd place in Super Jump. They pushed Metro to a game 5. Like, Oro Jackson is the team you want to see play in the league. If Oro Jackson signed up and played, it didn't make top 3, and I was a part of Dapple Productions, I would do some shady stuff to rig the final qualifier bracket to make sure they are the final team to qualify, because that's a team you want in. You want more EU representation. You want a strong team. Oro Jackson fits the bill. Are they actually going to play? Are they still a thing? Was that just like a one-off for Super Jump? I have no clue. Absolutely no clue. But if they were to sign up, that's one of the 3 spots automatically gone, and then it's just 5 different teams fighting out for just 2 individual spots. That's it. Those are the only 6 teams in my mind that are even capable of qualifying for the league this upcoming weekend. I don't think anybody else can. No, seriously, that's it. Like that's all that's left. And if somebody in chat can prove me wrong that there's some obvious team that I am missing from this list, and if you can correctly do that and I'll be like, oh yeah, I completely forgot those guys, I will either ban you from low ink or unban you from low ink. Whatever it is that wherever you are on that fence, that awkward fence that you'd be in. But I don't think there is a team that I'm missing right here. Let's look at Super Jump. What teams were in Super Jump that did really well that could have been a part of this? Metro, they've already signed up. They're already part of the league. The team finished in 2nd place. Honored Ones, well, that team combined with the team that finished in 4th place, Salty Springs, to basically make the Gruger team that made the cut. 3rd place team was Oro Jackson. I already got them listed on the list. The fourth place team, Salty Springs, I just mentioned, they're part of the honored ones in Gru. And the teams that finished tied for fifth are Duck Motif and Facade. Like, that's how far down the list, fifth place of Super Jump, we get to go before we're like, okay, it's Duck Motif and Facade. That's that's where we are. And that's where the top level of the competitive scene is. FT Win and Alliance Rogue, they're not going to be playing. Yeah, there's like some players left that aren't a part of Gru that could probably make some sort of pickup or something like that. But no, that's not the case. Starburst, we haven't seen Starburst since Low Tide City, and even that version of Starburst that we saw at Low Tide City has 2 players on it that are now banned for 6 months to a year, so we're not going to see that same team. And even if we do, yeah, maybe like some Bran, Bagel, and Ice, but I don't know if those 3 players would still play and who their fourth would be, because again, they can't play with 0 anymore, at least for another year. So Starburst, I don't know if they're even considering playing in this one. If they do, they're going to have to revamp their roster yet again. So that just leaves what? Division X? Like, no, there's nobody in Division X. There's players in this current season of Division X that are already qualified for the league. Yes, Zenith being an example from Osmosis that's playing with Metro. But as far as like actual legit teams still in the DivX category that can make it out, like Black Lotus, I don't think so. They had an underwhelming Super Jump. I don't think you can see them as a contender at this time. So, yes, you can see some sort of +1 pickup. Sure, and I would imagine we would see some sort of pickup, Buttfart McGee's friends group or whatever, +1 team try to sign up for this event and do well in it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that. But, I mean, this is just where we are. Like, these are the 6 teams that we're at right now. And it's fine. It's fine that the scene is like this. Because that's what the point of this league is to elevate the next team that's going to be taking the throne. What did we know about Jackpot before the Ink TV League? We knew a lot, but they didn't get elevated to that next status until the Ink TV League actually happened. Now, what do we think about Jackpot now? Obviously, is a little bit different from what the Ink TV League was able to do for them. But at the end of this 20XX, the point is we're going to have a new set of teams that we're going to be excited about. And with the new structure of top level, it's still going to be, okay, well, here's the next thing that you get to look forward to with these sets of teams. There's going to be something down the line to where we don't just create these new teams that even the casuals who vote in these things are going to be looking at and be like, oh, cool, I like this team. Well, cool. There's going to be something more coming down the pipe for them to continue to play in so they can continue to grow their brand. So that's fine. And the only thing somebody mentioned was Catnip. No, Catnip is not in this category of teams that I'm talking about right here. Fair enough, though. Maybe I mean, like, I would love to see Catnip play in this qualifier, but I don't think I don't think they crack the top 3, or they're a contender to make the top 3 like these other teams that I just kind of mentioned right here. So there you go. If I had, of those 6 teams I mentioned, let's just for the sake of argument say Oro Jackson does not sign up, because if they do, they're automatically taking one of those 3 spots. So that leaves, without Oro Jackson, that leaves 3 spots up for grabs. First spot is going to Duck Motif. The Ducks ideally are going to be seated in the top 3 of this next qualifier. I think they do enough to at least make podium. I think they should be the favorites to win this one. The only teams they've lost to in the last couple of months, all of them have already qualified for the tournament. So it's just a matter of, okay, now that you're the favorite, can you handle the pressure? And Duck Motif being the older team, not one of these brand new teams that popped out of nowhere, I think Duck Motif is going to get the job done 100%. They are going to qualify even if Oro Jackson signs up. Put the Ducks in. For the last 2 spots, I'm going to skip over the 2 teams that played last week, and I'm going to say it's going to be Comp Diff and Facade that sneak into the qualifiers for that. Now, if Oro Jackson does play, who do I like over Comp Diff or Facade to get that final third spot? I'm not ignoring the fact that Facade beat Comp Diff, but I won't want to ignore the fact that Comp Diff's players seem to have a lot of consistency over the course of things. So I would say I would bet they would make it in over Facade. But if Oro Jackson's out of the equation, I think those two would make it in. And then I think BTTX and the Salmon team are going to be on the outside looking in, scrambling for their lives in the final third qualifier. So there you go. If Oro Jackson does not sign up, the three teams that are going to qualify this weekend: Duck Motif, Comp Diff, and Facade. If Oro Jackson does sign up, it's going to be Oro Jackson, Duck Motif, and Comp Diff are my three. If I'm completely wrong about that, well, guess what? I'll do another episode next week, and then I'll tell you who won the third qualifier, and then I'll get a chance to redeem myself. Fun times up ahead. I am looking forward to this league, as I know you are as well. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Popcast. If you'd like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, please feel free to reach out on my socials below. Twitter, Mr._Popgun. Discord at Popgun. YouTube at Popgun25. 25 Popgun. Twitch at Popgun25. Anchor.fm/Popgun. Also Blue Sky at Popgun. Using Blue Sky a little bit more. I'm using Blue Sky as like my fake private account. I don't have a private account, but I do have a place where I was like, I'd rather do more in-depth thoughts. See you next week. Sign up for Little Squid League.